Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Preston here from Bull City Reader, and welcome to this week's video. As you can tell from the description down below, today I'm going to be telling you about the books that I got in December. And most of November, I think. I didn't really read anything. I got into a real big time funk. I was gifted some books for Christmas, but I also bought a lot of books. I was just trying to find something to get out of my funk. All these books I am going to read. I did find a book to read, but it's not from my haul that I'm reading right now. Hopefully I didn't just jinx myself, because I tend to jinx myself when I say I have found something. But anyway, let's jump into the video and show you the books that I got in December. I'm not going to talk about a lot of them because there's just so many of them, and I just want to show you what I got. There's a few that I'm going to touch on as we go through, and some of the ones I'm going to touch on are going to be indie books. They are indie authors. I know y'all like those. So anyway, let's just jump into it. So one of the things, and this is not in any order either. It's just in order of a stack that's over here to the side. So it's not like I bought this first and I bought this second. When I was walking through Barnes & Noble, I saw this book in its cover. The book's called Abandoned. And I remembered when I saw this cover that this book is actually book 2 in a series. So I ended up buying the series. I am going to read it. It sounds interesting. This first book is called Outpost by W. Michael Gear. The second book is Abandoned by the same author. This is a space. This takes place in space. I believe, if I'm remembering correct, revolves around there's some people on a planet. Space shuttle shows up, and there's kind of no government on the planet, so it's kind of like a what happened and going forward kind of thing, if I'm remembering correct. But anyway, you've got Outpost and Abandoned by W. Michael Gear. Next is a series that I bought. I'm going to touch on it just for a second. I did start to read it, as you can tell by the bookmark in here, if it will show. But anyway, I got about 100 pages in, about a quarter of the way through the first book, and then something happened and I wasn't able to read for like 5 days, and then I just kind of felt lost when I jumped back into it. I am going to jump back into this. So the first book is called The Last Name Sarah. It's kind of a shiny cover, and again, I've got a light behind me or in front of me. And then I got the follow-up, The Cage Queen. See if I can get this in there nice. So The Last Namsara is about this girl who is supposed to be married off to this guy. It's like an arranged marriage. She is known as the dragon killer. She brings the head of dragons back to her king, and she finds out that she is able to get out of the marriage if she brings the most powerful dragon, the head of the most powerful dragon, back to the king. There's a little backstory with that involves her. And there's also, it deals with stories being told. They don't tell stories anymore. And you find out in the first chapter, so it's not really a big spoiler. It might be the second chapter, but I think the first chapter, that the way that she's able to draw the dragons out so quick is she's telling these stories, which is illegal. But anyway, so that's the series. I believe each book follows a different character in the story. So I don't believe The Cage Queen follows all the characters or most of the characters from the first book, The Last Namsara, if I'm remembering correct. But anyway, this is really high up on my TBR because I was really liking what I was reading. The next book I bought, I have seen on YouTube before, and I've heard a lot of good things about it. The second book comes out really soon, I believe, or this year. The book is called The City of Brass. I don't know too much about it. I know that our main character is a con woman. And I know that she ends up going to some city, the City of Brass. I can't remember too much about what it says is supposed to happen when it gets there. It's supposed to be an amazing, I think, fantasy story. So anyway, the City of Brass. The next book was gifted to me. The next book I'm going to show you was gifted to me for Christmas from my wife. And I did start it when I got it. It's called 172 Hours on the Moon. In the book, it's been a while since people have been to the moon. And these kids, I think it's like 3 or 4 kids, are sent to the moon where they're going to be up there for a few days before they're supposed to come back. And then there's something sinister on the moon. That's about all I know about the book. I heard about this book because of, I believe it was Starry Night Reader. He talked about it and how much he really enjoyed it. I will tell you, I did start listening to the audiobook and read along with it. And there are some things that it skipped over the audiobook. I'm trying to get to it real quick. So in chapter 1, there is this page right here where it talks about, I guess it's that, if I'm remembering right, it's the ad that was in the newspaper or whatever for people to get put into the lottery to go to the moon. It doesn't read you that ad, and there is a little bit of information I felt like it should have told you. It kind of hints to where the name came from of the book, but the audiobook was alright, but you might want to actually read the book because I don't know what else you would miss. I know there's other pages like that in the book. But anyway, 172 Hours on the Moon. The next book I talked to you in my last video that I did, my wrap up for the year. I had got this in. I had won it by guessing the correct Halloween costume this guy wore on Halloween. But it was a Christmas anthology called The 12 Deaths of Christmas, a holiday horror anthology. It's by Paul Sading, I believe is how he says his name. But I won that, and it's signed by him. The next book I got is the second book in a series. It's called A Bad Deal for the Whole Galaxy by Alex White. This is supposed to be kind of like a Fast and the Furious meets Firefly. Kind of, it's a heist story with I believe it's a heist story, but there's also like racing and space racing, and there's like a magic system in it. Supposed to be really good from what I hear. Haven't read it yet. Book 1 just came out middle of last year or late last year. Second book just came out. So you don't have to wait a long time for these books if it sounds like something you might be interested in. The next book I got for Christmas, I believe I got it from my brother-in-law, if I'm remembering correct. I think. Sorry if I'm wrong. It's called The Dark Deep. This is I think it's a middle grade, YA middle grade. I think it's a middle grade book. I don't remember too much about it. I just know that the YouTube booktubers that have read it said it's really good. But yeah, The Dark Deep by Ali Condai and Brendan Reeks. The next book is another book my wife bought me for Christmas. It's called The Lost Causes. This is a book I saw when it came out. The cover interests me. I remember reading about the story when it came out, and I put it on my Amazon list. The book involves the FBI giving some teenagers a serum that's supposed to help raise some abilities in them, and solving a murder or something that's gone on in the town, which then leads to some conspiracies or something. The Lost Causes. The next book I got from Christmas from my mother-in-law. It is Arch Enemies. It is the second book in a series that follows up Renegades by Marissa Meyer. I've liked the books by her that I have read. I don't remember too much of the storyline for this. It's the second book, kind of like a YA superhero kind of story, I believe, or involves superheroes plus their arch enemies. But anyway, Arch Enemies by Marissa Meyer. So the next book I got, I saw on an article on Facebook someone had shared, and it was, I think it was mentioning either it was mentioning female fantasy authors or other fantasy books that have female main characters. And that's how I found out about Talon by Julie Kagawa, I believe is how she might say her name. I didn't know too much about I read the article. The book sounded interesting. I know it involves dragons able to shapeshift into humans to blend in, but then there's also an organization that I think are going after the dragons, and it's going to sound like it involves a romance with it also. So anyway, Talon by Julie Kagawa. So the next two books I got are in a series. The first book is called Nevermore, The Trials of Morgan Crow. And then I got the follow-up, Wondersmith, The Calling of Morgan Crow. This, I don't know too much about it. I know several people that have read it, a couple booktubers and a couple of my friends on Facebook. And everybody compares this, says that this is going to be like the next Harry Potter. If you enjoy Harry Potter, you're going to like this. Everything that I've heard about it. So I picked it up because I like Harry Potter. Who doesn't like Harry Potter? And everybody I know that's read it loves it. So Nevermore and Wondersmith. So the next 3 books I got are by the same author. I'm just making sure it's only 3. I believe so. I originally went and bought Jade City by Fonda Lee. I've heard a lot of really good things about this book, and the next one comes out this year. It is a adult fantasy story. But then I found out that she also wrote a couple YA novels. So there is EXO and Crossfire. I believe this is only a duology. If it's a trilogy, I'm not 100% sure. I don't know too much about it. I remember reading about it in the store when I found out that she also wrote YA, and it sounded interesting, so I picked it up. But I mainly went to go get Jade City. It's supposed to be a fantastic fantasy story, adult fantasy story. All the reviews that I know for people that have read it, they absolutely love it. So anyway, I picked up these 3 books by Fonda Lee. So the next book I mentioned in my previous video, the last video I did, it's The Last Dragon Princess. This was a indie author that reached out to me. I do want to read this book this year. I don't remember too much about it. It's a YA fantasy. It's a standalone. It's not going to be part of a series from my understanding. So if you're looking for a story that is around 355 pages or so, and there's no more to it, it's just one and done, check it out. It says her birth was an act of treason, and now she's their last hope. Born with the marks, she must choose the next king and stand against the gods. So The Last Dragon Princess by Cynthia Payne. The next book is done by an indie author as well. I don't remember actually how I found out about this book. I know the cover looks awesome. I believe I've also picked up some of her other books for my Kindle because they're like 99 cents. But so the book's called The Gods of Men by Barbara Close. I love the cover of this. The audiobook just came out. I used one of my credits that I had to get this audiobook, and I believe, if I remember right, it actually sounds pretty good. The audiobook. The story also sounds good. I'm just going to read you the quick synopsis because y'all like it when I kind of share the indie community a little bit more. So this book says, Sable hated the gods. She hated what men did in their name. Magic is forbidden throughout the 5 provinces. Those born with it are hunted and killed. Sable doesn't know her music holds power over souls. Not until at age 9, she plays her flute before the desert court and accidentally stops her baby sister's heart. Horrified by what she's done and fearing for her life, she flees north out of provincial jurisdiction and into the frigid land of exiles and thieves known as the Wilds. There, Sable lives in hiding and survives as a healer. But now, 10 years later, someone or something is hunting her. On the run again, Sable's best chance for survival is, I think it's Joss, J-O-S, a lethal man from the 5 provinces, who claims to need her skills as a healer to save his dying father, and she needs the large sum of money he's offered. There's something about him Sable doesn't trust, but she doesn't have many options. A spirit of the dead is hunting her, summoned by a mysterious necromancer, and is getting closer. Sable soon discovers that she's just the start of the necromancer's plan to take over the 5 provinces, and she's the only one with the power to stop it. But harnessing her forbidden power means revealing it to the world and the dangerous provincial Joss she's beginning to fall for. The book sounds really good. The reviews it's getting are really good. This is really high up on my TBR. Like, I really want to get to it here. I'm reading a series. It's one of the next series that I want to start. The second book comes out a little later this year, I believe. But anyway, this is called The Gods of Men by Barbara Close. Check it out if it sounds good to you. If you remember earlier, I told you about an article I read online. It was pointing out some women in fantasy, some women authors, and I also believe it was with female main characters that were supposed to be really good, that they say you needed to know about. So this series was on there. It was the series that grabbed my attention the most in this article. I only picked up 2 of the books. I showed you one earlier. So this is the other series that was mentioned by it. Book is called The Ormir Chronicles. Book 1 is called Heart of Mist. And I love the cover on this. And then book 2 is called Reign of Mist. 2 beautiful covers. It was put out by Talon Press in Australia. I don't know how big of a press that is. It might be an indie press. But I want to read you what this series is about, or book 1. I haven't read what book 2 is about, but I picked it up when I got book 1. It says, in a realm where toxic mist sweeps the lands and magic is forbidden, all Bleak wants is a cure for her power. Still grieving the death of her guardian and dangerously self-medicating with alcohol, Bleak is snatched from her home by the commander of the king's army and summoned to the capital. But the king isn't the only one interested in Bleak's powers. The leader of an infamous society of warriors, the Valia kindred, lays claim to her as well, and Bleak finds herself in the middle of a much bigger battle than she anticipated. Heart of Mist is the gripping first book in the Ormir Chronicles, a fantasy series of epic proportions. So that's what that series is about. It is Heart of Mist by Helen Schurer. I hope I said her name right. If it sounds interesting to you, go check it out. We are almost done, I promise. The next book I've heard on BookTube, it's gotten pretty good reviews. It's called Empire of Sand by Tasha Suri. The book's supposed to be really good. I started reading it in the store and the beginning of it was really good. So this is another one that's kind of up there on my TBR, but not as high up as a couple of these other ones are. The last thing that I got is a series. It is put out by an author who was actually a published author, and I guess the sales weren't good for the publishers. So they didn't finish publishing his series, so he finished publishing the series on his own. And he had a thing where you could get all the books signed from him in the series. So that is what I did. I pre-ordered the final book signed from him. It's a special limited printing. I think he might still have some available of the first run of the printing. He printed it on his own at a small printing press, I believe. But anyway, the first book in the series is Warm Bodies by Isaac Marion. If you don't know, there is a movie based on this book. I believe this is about, you follow a zombie named R. R meets a girl, and it's supposed to be a different kind of zombie story, not your average zombie story. I'm not really big into zombies, but what I've read of this so far is really good, and I've really enjoyed it. It sounds like the girl in the book that he meets and ends up taking captive, he doesn't want to eat her. He finds he wants to protect her. And this relationship is supposed to change the world, the relationship that they build. That's about all I know of the series, but there is a movie based on it. The trailer looked really good, and I want to watch it, but I want to read the book first. So I got Warm Bodies, and it's signed by him in the front of the book. He signed it. It's followed by a novella called The New Hunger. I believe this goes in between book 1 and book 2. There are also some short stories that he gave us that haven't been released for ordering the books. The second novel is called The Burning World, which I absolutely love this cover. And again, he signed this one. And then the third and final book in the series, this is the one that he got printed himself with a small press. And so he independently put this book out on his own. It's not put out by a publisher. But he poured so much of his energy into this story, and he wanted to release it to the public. But the final book is called The Living. And he did an amazing job. So this cover doesn't feel like you're a cheap cover like some of the books that you might even get at Barnes & Noble. This is a very nice cover that comes on it. The hardback's yellow, but this is the back. This is the side, The Living by Isaac Marion. And on the front, he put this little symbol. I love it. I know I mentioned it before. I love it when authors put, when there's stuff printed on the hardback. I don't know. I just feel like it's a nice little touch that I think authors should add to their hardcovers for people investing, you know, $26 to $30 on a hardcover. I feel like they deserve a little something extra. And then inside there is a map of the United States. I believe it's drawn by the zombie R, the main zombie R. And then in the back of the book, you also have the map again. And here's the inside of the book. I just opened it up too, so you can see the formatting for one of the chapters. And I mean, it's a very nice formatted book. It's signed by him. So the end of the Warm Bodies series, The Living by Isaac Marion. So those are the books I picked up this month. Sorry, this is another long video. Apparently, I just can't do short videos. Hopefully, it's a lot shorter when I get done editing than what I see on my camera as the time right now. But thank you for watching. I will pose a question to you. What is the one book you got in December as a gift or you bought yourself that you're most excited to read, and then why? If the why is not too long. If you just want to tell me the book, that's also fine. Comment with that down below, and don't forget to like and share. Subscribe right here. YouTube says that you'll like this video, and supposedly it's on my channel. But anyway, guys, that is all I got for you this video. I will see you next time, peoples. Have a good one. Goodbye.